Hello there everyone and welcome back to the GSL-English Podcast. My name is Gideon and this is a podcast for all learners of English to practice and improve in a relaxed and natural way. And that is most certainly what we are going to do today, because as you can tell, I'm holding the microphone, and regular viewers and subscribers know that when I'm holding the microphone, it's going to be a more chilled podcast. And secondly, I'm outside, recording this podcast outside. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit in a moment. But just to let you know, the main theme of this episode is going to be two terms. Okay, we're going to look at two terms, which are FOMO and JOMO. Okay, we're going to look at them in detail. We're going to see kind of which category do we fall into, and also how they can help us have a balanced life. And of course, as we go through, I've got tons of new vocabulary for you and expressions for you to start using in your conversations in English. So there you go. So if you are a returning viewer or listener, thank you so much for joining me again. I do appreciate it. And if you are new here, click that subscribe button. I don't think you'll regret it. But a little bit of a catch up before we get into the main topic. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, the point that can't be ignored, and that is that I'm recording this podcast outside. And that is because we are having an epic heat wave here in England at the moment. The last week has just been getting warmer and warmer. And today, which is a Saturday, so I'm recording this podcast a little bit later in the week, it is roasting. It is boiling hot. It is scorching. For us, it's unbelievably hot. It's about 30, 31 degrees. I was recording inside, and then I just thought, no, it's too hot. This doesn't feel right. So here we are. That's why I'm outside. And also it gives you a bit of a change of scenery. And you may remember this if you have been watching this podcast for a while, but the reason as to why I'm wearing sunglasses, this is just a little disclaimer. I'm not wearing them to look cool. I'm not wearing them to look interesting, a little bit mysterious. No, basically I've got dodgy eyes. I've got really bad eyes and they are very sensitive to light. So every time basically I'm outside and the sun's out, I have to wear sunglasses. That's the reason I'm wearing them, not to try and be a cool guy, because I don't think I've ever been a cool guy in my life. And if you're listening on Spotify, well, just know that I am outside. I promise you I'm outside, and I do promise I'm wearing sunglasses just to paint the scene for you. And the third point of me recording this podcast outside is for your entertainment. There's a very high chance of myself getting hit by a pine cone, because this is actually my parents' garden, and just here, you can't see it, but believe me, again, there is a huge pine tree. And the wind has picked up a little bit, and pine cones seem to be falling everywhere around me. So there's a high chance of, me getting hit by a pine cone. So that's something to stick around for. If you're not here just for the English language, stick around. I might get hit by a pine cone. You never know. But you won't know till the end. So yeah. Very good. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you've had a good week. Wherever you are, whatever you've been doing, I hope it's been all right. But you know what I'm going to say. Now's the time. Just sit back, relax, grab a cuppa, get some coffee, whatever drink you fancy, get some food, and just enjoy this episode with me. I did enjoy preparing this one because it's quite an interesting topic. So I've put different thoughts together, different bits of information that I've collected over the week. So hopefully you do enjoy it. So let's get into it. Now, let's be honest. Okay, most of us have been there in this scene. Okay, you can say you haven't been there, but you have been there. Everyone's been there, where you're scrolling through Instagram, you're scrolling through TikTok, you're sitting at home on your own, and it feels like everyone else is having much more fun than you. Let's be honest, we've all been there. Or you're sitting at home and you feel a bit left out. You feel like everybody else is having a bit more of an exciting life or an exciting weekend. Someone is at the beach. Someone else is at a fancy restaurant. They're at one of your friends' houses. And you're sitting there in your pyjamas with your ice cream on your own thinking, oh, well, that's a shame. You know what I mean? That feeling is FOMO. And that is the fear of missing out. So we're going to dive into what that truly means in the moment. But in this episode, we're going to look at turning the idea of FOMO on its head. Why do we have to fear missing out? Is it something to be feared, or could we look at our evening at home in our pyjamas on our own with our ice cream thinking, I've got JOMO. I have JOMO, JOMO, which is the joy of missing out. That's what we're going to consider today. The joy of missing out, as well as the fear of missing out. So in this episode, we're going to kind of dive into what they mean, how they affect our moods, how we can balance them in everyday life, but also most importantly, we'll go through some key vocabulary, some expressions. So this really is just an amazing podcast. You've got to subscribe. You won't regret it. And one thing I've noticed recently is that you seem to really enjoy the thought-provoking topics. You know, the ones more based around our emotions, psychology, the way we think. You seem to be enjoying that at the moment. So, and I really love preparing these episodes because I'm learning a lot as we go through. You know, the ones that get you thinking about your personality a little bit. The episodes that get you thinking about how the mind works. I'm by no means an expert in this, as you can probably tell. So when I prepare these episodes, I just rely on the internet and research, and then sharing my opinions on them. But you seem to be enjoying it. So if you do enjoy these episodes, I will keep doing them. I actually much prefer it to the stories and different things like that. So what is FOMO really? Now, what are we talking about when we experience this FOMO? Well, FOMO is that anxious itch that tells you basically you're missing out. You should be somewhere else. You should be with your friends. You shouldn't be where you are currently. You know, you should be experiencing something else. It's an itch. And when you get an itch, you know, it's a strong desire or discomfort or, you know, feeling that you should be doing something else. So when you get FOMO, it's just that itch that's telling you you are missing out. Now, this is a feeling I think humans have always had. But we live in a time of social media, don't we? We live in a time where absolutely everything is instantly broadcast. It is instantly put out there, and that has supercharged this feeling of FOMO because you can instantly see what you're missing. For example, imagine this. You're at home on a Friday night. You had a long week. You're tired, and you did think, you know what, I'm just going to relax tonight. It's Friday. I'm going to chill. So I'm going to have some Ben & Jerry's ice cream. Going to get a pizza and I'm just going to relax. But what happens when you see that your friends are out and about having dinner? They're laughing. The lighting is perfect on all their pictures, and suddenly your cosy evening was kind of been a little bit ruined because that FOMO begins to creep in. And creep in is a phrasal verb that means it gradually appears, growing, often when you don't want it to. So that feeling of FOMO starts to creep in. You were perfectly fine having an evening on your own, the Friday night, after a long week at work. You were fine with that. But now you feel that FOMO creeping in, gradually appearing or growing. And it makes you feel a bit anxious, a little bit worried, a little bit nervous. You know, what if they have a good time without me? And then this leads us to do things which really cannot be too healthy. We overcommit because we don't want to miss out. So you say yes to everything, even if you're exhausted. You second guess your own plans. And then you start to fall into this trap of comparison, comparing or measuring your life against someone else's highlight reel on Instagram or Facebook. And it can be a bit of a negative spiral, particularly when we have that feeling that makes us second guess the idea that we shouldn't be at home alone on a Friday evening. It's almost like there's something wrong with that. And that's the idea of this episode, is can we switch that around? Can we turn that on its head? there's an expression that we use in English, which is the grass is always greener on the other side. And I think that expression actually translates to a few other languages where you've got something similar. But when we say the grass is always greener, or the grass is always greener on the other side, we're basically saying that other people's lives often look better from a distance. You know what I mean? The grass looks greener, it looks better, it looks more enjoyable. From a distance, you think, oh, look at everything they're doing. And I'm here on a Friday night on my own, eating my ice cream. But that's not healthy, is it? That's not how we should view it. So what is the psychology behind FOMO? Why do some more than others get this feeling that is so powerful? Well, according to psychologists, it ties directly, so ties or is connected or is linked to our basic human needs. And two of them are belonging and recognition. You know, we want to feel connected. We want to feel that we belong somewhere. We want to feel that we belong in a group of friends. And perhaps when we get that fear of missing out, perhaps it starts to subconsciously make us feel that we're no longer in that group, or we don't belong as much as we want to. Which is crazy, isn't it, really? Because if they're good friends, we wouldn't feel like that. Or we want recognition. You know, we want to feel important. We want to feel invited. We want to feel thought about. And social media, as good as it is, for example, YouTube is considered social media, isn't it? And this gives me work. But it triggers those needs constantly because of the amount of time we spend on social media. To trigger something is to cause a reaction, to cause a feeling. And that's the issue, isn't it? Because of that constant connection, that constant feed of what is going on in everyone else's life, it can allow these feelings of FOMO to creep in. It was interesting, actually. A 2021 study from the University of Michigan found that people who scrolled through social media for more than 2 hours per day reported higher levels of stress and loneliness. FOMO is exhausting mentally and emotionally. Loneliness is that feeling of being alone or disconnected, and exhausted, of course, we're just very tired. And I think that's really interesting, that spending more time on social media is not actually connecting us to people, generally speaking. It's actually creating a bit of a disconnect because we see what everyone else is doing, we're not doing it, and then in turn we feel this element of disconnect. Now, I would say at this point that I think there's different levels of FOMO, isn't there? You know, there's the healthy FOMO, which is like, I'd love to be with my friends this evening, but I'm okay being at home. But I think when FOMO gets bad, it is when it starts to take over our feelings, you know, and we start to feel negatively about ourselves and the situation. And that is where we bring in JOMO. JOMO has entered the room. JOMO's here. And that is, I love this expression so much, the joy of missing out. This is the opposite of FOMO. It is JOMO. This is the warm, the calm feeling of being exactly where you want to be, doing exactly what you want to do. No pressure, no guilt, just peace. JOMO. So imagine this. We're going to set another scene. Your phone buzzes. It vibrates with a party invite, or an invite to dinner, an invite to the pub, an invite to the cafe. You pause. You're tired. You think, no, not interested, mate. You decide to make a cup of tea. You listen to your favourite podcast, i.e. the GSL-English Podcast. Thank you for your support. I really do appreciate it. You light a candle. You smile. You think, yeah, I made a choice and I'm happy with it. I'm staying at home. I'm staying at home on my Friday and I'm proud about it. I don't want to be with you guys right now. I love you all. You're my friends. But I'm not bothered. I'm perfectly content with my Friday evening, with my ice cream, with my film. That is JOMO. Joy of missing out. So there's no guilt tied with JOMO. You know, sometimes when you get guilt, it's that bad feeling that you should be somewhere. You've done something wrong, that you should be having fun. No, there's no guilt there. A couple of expressions that I put with JOMO, okay, that I think are worth learning. Less is more. And what we mean in this context, what we mean by that is the fact that simplicity, leading a simple life, can lead to a bit of a deeper satisfaction. It's not all about going out, spending money, pictures in this place, in that place, in front of this incredible thing, or less is more. And I think sometimes you can be content with that. Or another expression is to march to the beat of your own drum, to do things your way. What everyone else, not what everyone else expects. If you want to spend an evening on your own, then you decide to go on Instagram and you see everybody out having fun, dinner party, even if you weren't invited. When you experience JOMO, you don't take that personally. You don't get that anxious feeling, that anxious itch, that overthinking it. You just go, no, it's cool. They're having fun, so am I. I am at peace with the decision to stay at home on a Friday night with my ice cream. Are you starting to get the idea of what my perfect Friday is? So why is JOMO good for us? Well, people who practice JOMO or feel JOMO, I guess it's a conscious effort. They feel calmer, less anxiety, less worry about what else is going on. They sleep better, apparently. This is study-based, by the way. They build deeper relationships because they're present and they're engaged. And I thought that was an interesting point, because when you got JOMO, when you're enjoying your evening in with your spouse, with your partner, with your family, you're not checking Instagram to see what everyone else is doing, because you're experiencing joy. You're happy that you're home. You're happy with your choice. And I thought this was an interesting point, that it went on to say that when we have JOMO, generally we experience more gratitude for small joys. And a big idea in mental health today, apparently, is closely related to JOMO. And it means paying full attention to what you are doing now, not what everyone else is doing around the world. I think that's sometimes much easier said than done, but it is true, isn't it? I think some of the biggest issues we have mentally and things that we struggle with are the fact that, we are comparing to other people, but there is beauty in a simple life, isn't there? And there's nothing wrong with just being at home, not checking up what everyone else is doing. Just being content. If you're happy at home, you don't have to see what everyone else is doing. JOMO. The joy of missing out. In fact, and that kind of brings this idea that actually you're happy that you're missing out. But it's interesting, this, because you might say, well, doesn't that make us antisocial? Antisocial is a term that means that we avoid social situations. And I put a note here in my notes that you can't see, that between British and American English, British English, American English, anti. Okay, so they'll get antisocial. But we say antisocial, same word. And if we're antisocial, it just means that we would much rather not be social. We'd much rather not see people. We would much rather just stay at home. But JOMO, the joy of missing out, it's not about that. It's not to be mistaken with the idea of being antisocial. It's about making choices based on what you need, not on fear. You know what I mean? If you need a night in, if you need some time to rest, if you need some time on your own, that's all right. We're going to go on to talk about it in a moment, but of course everything takes balance. So what we're going to do is we're going to try these JOMO-friendly habits. All right. So if you want to experience that joy of missing out, rather than examining what everyone else is doing and feeling rubbish, it gave 4 points that we can try. The first, turn off push notifications. Now, I think this is a great idea anyway. With social media, don't have the push notifications on your phone. Basically, a push notification is the one that comes up on your screen. So-and-so has posted for the first time in a long time. So-and-so just posted a story, whatever it is. Turn them off. Turn off push notifications. This is one I don't do. It never really works for me, but for some it does. Journal for 5 minutes a day. Just write down what you're happy about. What made you smile? What are you pleased with, about your week, whatever it is, rather than just scrolling on social media. Point 3, create a no phone zone. Dinner table, bedroom, or even if you go for an evening walk, do some exercise, no phones. Or if it is a phone, it's limited. Like, for example, if I go to exercise, I use Spotify on my phone. I listen to music, but I try to turn notifications off. My dad actually has a rule. Well, we don't do it as much anymore, but we used to have a rule that when all the family got together for dinner, all phones would go into another room. So at the dinner table, no phones. And it was lovely. So there's no one checking social media. There's no one messaging their mate on WhatsApp. You're just present in that moment, all together, talking and playing games. So that might be an idea. Create no phone zones. And also, this idea of celebrating saying no. Each no to something draining is a yes to yourself. Now, this is an interesting point because sometimes we're up for social interactions, aren't we? We are up for going out. We're up for having a laugh. But other times, we just feel drained. We're tired. We've had a long week at work. We've had a lot of things to do, to prepare. It's all right to say no. It doesn't mean we're going to lose friends. All right, let's be honest, we might miss out on a good meal. But we shouldn't fear that. We are missing out technically, but it's the element of fearing that, worrying about it, that making us anxious. That's where the issue is. Get in the habit of sometimes just saying no, or having healthy friendships or relationships with our family. And if they invite you out, sometimes you can just say, oh, actually, no, I'm going to spend an evening in tonight. Nothing wrong with that, is there? So now we're going to look at these two terms together. FOMO and JOMO together equals a balanced life. So let's face it, we do need a little bit of both, don't we? FOMO can encourage us to be brave, to try new things, to connect. I have a habit of always wanting to stay home and just chill with my wife. It's not always good. We need social interactions. So if you get a little bit of FOMO, healthy FOMO, kind of make you think, right, now I do need to be a bit more social. On the other hand, JOMO helps us to recharge, reflect, listen to what our body needs, what our mind needs. So what's the secret? Balance. Listen to your body, listen to your feelings and ask, am I doing this out of fear or am I doing this out of genuine interest or joy? Am I going out because I don't want to miss out? Or am I going out just because I want to spend time with my friends? Am I staying home because I want to be antisocial? Or am I staying home because I just need some time to myself to recharge? Just these kind of questions. But it's being okay with both. So I asked ChatGPT actually to give me some tips for balance. Planning. Plan social media time, but also plan alone time. Sorry, not plan social media time. That's the next point. Ignore that one. Plan social time, but also alone time. And this is something my wife and I have tried to incorporate into our weekends. We book in certain, not the table there. We book in certain times of the week where we plan to do nothing. So it's blocked out in our calendar. So we might go out with some friends on Friday night, but if we get invited out on Saturday night, no, we've got plans. And it's okay for those plans to be to do nothing. We don't have to justify it. We don't have to explain it. That is what we've planned to do. So planning for both. Planning social time, but also planning time to recharge, to refresh, to just relax. Now, this is a big one. I'm an advocate for this. I think it's something we can all work on to limit social media. As much as we can, we should limit it. It's all right, and it's social media, but it's not great. It's not the healthiest place in the world. We could all do with it less. Yeah. And then this last point it gave me, I love this one. Remind yourself, you're not missing out. You're choosing in. It's your choice. It's our choice, whether we miss out, whether we stay in. But having that healthy balance, that healthy relationship with it. As an expression that it reminds me of, which is don't spread yourself too thin. And we can do this sometimes at work, but we can also do it in a social way where we spread ourselves too thin in the sense you take on too much at once. So you say yes to everything, you try to be everywhere all at once, and it's just not possible. You're spreading yourself too thin. There's not enough of you to go around. There's got to be balance. So in a world, really, that it just never stops talking, does it? It never stops posting, never stops inviting, never stops comparing. Choosing this idea of JOMO, the joy of missing out, it can almost feel rebellious, like you're going against the grain. But also, it's beautifully freeing. So it's just an idea for us. Next time we feel that FOMO sneaking in, next time we start to worry about that FOMO, that fear of missing out when we're at home just having fun, you can take a breath, you can take a moment and just think, I'm not missing out. I'm making a choice to be present, a choice to be here, a choice to be relaxed, a choice to just be content with the evening. but everything with balance. So, final thoughts. We could say that FOMO shouts, go, 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 all the time. I should be out there. I should be doing something else. Whereas JOMO kind of whispers, you're all right. You're okay right here. It's all good. And sometimes, that whisper just saying, just relax, calm down, stop comparing yourself. That's the voice we need the most, isn't it? True. So I would love to know at this point, which one are you? Which camp do you most naturally fall into? Do you fall into the idea of FOMO? Do you fall into more the idea of JOMO? Which one is it? I would really love to know. Or do you find that you've got quite a good balance? Have you got any tips for having a balance with that? So what we're going to do now, we're going to try and do this a little bit more. We're just going to do a little recap on vocabulary that we went through this article. And the idea of this is just to kind of just push home any new vocabulary that we went through, and also hopefully enable you to use it over the next week. So FOMO, fear of missing out. JOMO, the joy of missing out. When we have an itch to do something, it's a strong desire, but can also be quite uncomfortable. We had that phrasal verb, creeping in. We can feel something creeping in, meaning that it's gradually appearing or growing. And we often tie this to feelings and emotions that are creeping in. We've got to be careful with them. When we're anxious, we are worried or nervous. There's a term that I don't think I elaborated on, but it was to second guess. When we second guess something, it's like we've made the decision, but then we start questioning it. We start second guessing it. It's quite a dangerous thing to do. And in line with what we're talking about, if you second guess your choice to stay in, you've made that choice, you're going to stay in, but then you look on social media, see what everyone else is doing, and you start to second guess it. Was it the wrong choice? Have I made a mistake? No, it's that idea. And we looked at the idea of overcommitting, committing to too much. Loneliness, feeling alone or disconnected, a trigger, causing of a reaction or a feeling. I think that was pretty much most of the key vocabulary there. But like anything, it's all about balance, isn't it? It's all about just having that, the right connection with what we choose to do, making that choice and sticking with it. But of course, this isn't about being antisocial, is it? It's not that at all, because we all need social elements in our life. And sometimes we have to push ourselves the other way to be more social. That's what I fall into, this idea that I need to be more social. I need to make more of an effort. I'm too comfortable just staying at home all weekend. That's not good either. So with anything like that, it's balance, isn't it? But what's interesting is, I think sometimes as well, you can get this fear of missing out with English. And I think when you're learning anything, you can sometimes get caught in this trap of feeling guilt. For example, let's imagine that you study every day at 5 o'clock and you miss a day. There should be that healthy connection which says, oops, I missed a day, got to get back on it tomorrow because I'm human, I made a mistake, I missed a day, that's absolutely fine. But we don't want to fear missing out on it. We don't want that fear to lead us to feel guilty and then have a bit of a negative relationship with the English language. Everything is with balance, and sometimes with English you're just not feeling it, just not in the mood, but that's okay. Every day isn't going to be great. Every day isn't going to be, get up and go, and then you start comparing yourself to others that are posting how they're doing with social media, the job they just got English speaking, and it builds up this fear that you're missing out on life, that you're missing out on experience. Well, we keep working hard, we keep trying hard, but we don't want that to creep in to our lives, to our mindsets. We just got to do what's right for us, and with our own schedules, with our own circumstance. All very different, isn't it? Very good. So that was the theme for today's topic. I hope you enjoyed it. And as I said at the beginning, please do let me know if you are enjoying these more thought-provoking podcasts about personalities, social interactions. It's kind of new to me. I've not really looked into this stuff before, but I'm really enjoying it for the podcast. And of course, as we go through, I hope you are learning some new vocabulary and expressions. But if you do want me just to go back to stories and things like that, let me know. Do let me know, because I want to do what you want, But for me, I'm quite enjoying it. So yeah, the sun's gone in a little bit. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the sun's gone in, and I think it's going to cool down a little bit here in England over the next week, which I'm okay with, because us Brits, we love to talk about the weather, don't we? When it's raining, we complain. When it's too hot, we complain. When it's cloudy, we complain that the sun's not out. We just love talking about the weather. So you can imagine any Brit that you talk to at the moment, what's the first conversation you're going to have? Oh, it's boiling, isn't it? Oh, it's roasting, isn't it? I've done it to loads of people. I've got to go to the shops after this because we're having a barbecue this evening. My wife and I, very antisocial. No, I'm only joking. Not being antisocial. We're having a barbecue. The sun's out, so we're going to have a gin and tonic. After this, I'm going to head to the shops, get some barbecue food, and just sit down and relax. But I know at the shops, everyone's going to be talking about the weather and how hot it is and having a little moan about it. But secretly, we do love it. And that is one thing I love about England in the summer, like driving around. It's just a really good atmosphere. Everyone's got their music playing, particularly where we are. You've got the smell of barbecues, people out in their garden, just having fun, just relaxing, unwinding. I love it. I genuinely think when the weather's like this, there's no better place to be than in England. And I was saying to my wife this morning, what would make this even better is a swimming pool that I can dip my feet into, because my feet are absolutely roasting. If you are in England at the moment, which I know according to the YouTube analytics, most of you are actually in England and around London, which is really interesting. Let me know how you're coping in the heat. Where are you? And what's it like? Because I know London always, well, I guess because it's just such a dense city, it's just always hotter, isn't it? But yeah, I'm going into London next week, which I'm very excited about. It's been a long time since I've had a day out in London. I've got some friends visiting from America, so we're going to take them to London on Tuesday. We are going to do all like the main sites, see Big Ben, Buckingham Palace. What else are we doing? Covent Garden. We've got a restaurant booked, and then we are going to see the show Lion King in the evening. So I'm very much looking forward to that. It's been a long time since I've done a day out in London. And I know I keep saying it. I will do a vlog in London one day. I will do a vlog. I've never got round to it. Yeah, I need to do it. I need to get on with it. So there you go. And that is it. Very good. I hope you enjoyed the podcast this week. If you did get to this point and you're still watching or you're still listening on YouTube or Spotify, type FOMO or JOMO in the comments if you still got to this point. So well done. And as always, thank you so much for all your support. Genuinely appreciate it. Genuinely means the world to me. I am loving doing this podcast, as always. Coming up to the 2-year mark in September. So if you've got any ideas of ways that we could... Oh, maybe that's when we do the London trip. I don't know. Got any ways to celebrate the 2-year mark? Let me know. But yeah, keep it up, guys. Have a good week. And I'll see you all soon. All right. Have a good one, guys.